the Sotto la Curva Serie A podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're taking the time to listen to us. In today's episode, we'll be breaking down a Matchday 22 that saw Inter run riot while Juve sent a massive message to the defending champs. We'll also look at the worrying free fall in Bologna and why Cesc Fàbregas might be a tactical genius after Como's latest masterclass. Following that, we'll look ahead to a massive Matchday 23. We've got to preview some season-defining clashes, including Napoli's desperate bounce-back attempt against Fiorentina and a high-flying Como taking on the Atalanta machine. Then, last, we'll pivot to Champions League, where Italian teams are currently locked out of the top 8 and are facing a do-or-die final match day. Let's get into it, and let's start at the Olimpico with Roma and Milan 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I think it was a good game. I think, Roma were maybe a bit unlucky to not come away with 3 points. Modric seems to disagree with me after the post-match comments. I think I'm happy with the way Gasperini prepared the match. I think Roma took the opportunity being at home against what is a strong team and a great manager. A lot of people say a lot of different things about Allegri, but I think he's a great manager. Before he was done and dusted to Milan, and we ended up with Gasperini. I was hoping Roma would pounce on him. Not super satisfied with the result, but getting a point against a tough opponent. These are the matches that Roma doesn't often win, guys. Like the head-to-head matchups with the big teams. We still didn't win this one, but at least we played well. We were in with a chance all the way to the end. I think a Roma victory would have maybe been a little fairer, but Calcio and Serie A specifically isn't always fair. Before the episode, we were joking. We were like just chatting before hitting record, and we were almost getting into it. And then I told Remo to keep it for the podcast. I wanted to hear it live. So we're breaking this down. We're breaking this down at the same time. Remo, what did you think?
Listen, Milan suffered a lot in that first half. That first half was all Roma. And honestly, we were pretty lucky to get out of that first half as we did. I'd say Magnan in that first half was probably the MVP. But the overall game, I'd say Milan's best player was Ricci, but there's just something missing on the team. Like there's no connection from the attack to the midfield. And full credit to Roma this week, I think, because Manu Kone, before he got injured, was everywhere on the pitch. And the biggest surprise for me was watching Ghilardi. He didn't play for 12 games straight this season, and now he looks like a completely reborn player. I think he's like the quintessential Gasperini project. It's he, no matter who was playing, he marked them completely out of the game. He went toe for toe with Füllkrug when he came in as well. It was beautiful to see. Annoying for me as a fan, but it's very promising for a player like that looks that good. Back to Milan. I last week I said Milan needed a substitute for Salamakers. This is exactly why. He was completely off. He was injured. Clearly, he was clearly not 100%. And as soon as he came off for Atekame, the team suffered. No offense to Atekame, he's young, he's quick, but he played himself into danger a couple times. He didn't look good. And yeah, I think that Milan couldn't control the game whatsoever. Roma was all over the pitch, and it's a big blow to them though that Manu Kone got injured. As soon as I saw it, I felt I'm like, oh, that's a torn hamstring. I've had that, and it's he's out for a while now.
I was going to say, as an outsider looking in, I'm watching this as a neutral. Milan obviously very lucky to come out with a point, especially in that first half. Mike Magnan kept them in the game with some big saves. The pressure, like Roma had so much pressure. Malin, I think, missed how many chances did Malin miss?
Man, he was everywhere. He was
He
hard to
was
mark for sure.
amazing, hard to walk. Like he was amazing. His speed, we talked about it last week as well, is gonna help Roma in the front for sure. But listen, I know even Luka Modric, I think after the game came out and said, if they didn't get the penalty, I don't think they would have scored. Roma, and he's maybe right. I think it was one of those games. If a penalty wasn't given, Milan maybe steal it 1-0.
Yeah, but it's exactly that. They'd steal it. It's not like they. It's
Yeah.
not like they would have deserved to win that game. They were pinned back. They couldn't get the ball, and when they did, they lost it relatively quickly. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of I definitely think Roma were on the front foot and they were the team with more initiative for sure. I think that represents Gasperini as a manager. I'm not, there's a lot made, especially with Fabregas's comments after again the Milan game. This debate between risultatisti and giochisti, right? Like people who are, who believe that there's a right and a wrong way to play versus people who believe that what counts is the result. I'm more on the side that what counts is the result. So,
But
Milan prepared. Yeah,
if you're playing well, it's okay, right? I don't think Milan played well at all. Like the result was there, but if you're playing well,
I'm
you're playing a good like defensive structure. Like they've been playing like that all season, but they've been playing well, right? They've been playing
yeah.
Allegri ball as they call it, but they've been playing well. Whereas yesterday, that was just horrible.
I feel like there was a moment in the game. I don't know if you caught it, Remo, and I'd be curious to see what you think of it. There was a moment in the game where it was, I think, maybe 85th, 87th, or it might have been into early stoppage where Milan were looking like they were starting to come into the game. Roma was piling players forward. Milan were getting some chances on the counter, and I had sent to our group chat, Roma's too far forward. Milan's going to snatch one back. And there was a moment where you see, I don't remember who it was taking a throw in, and Allegri's telling them, calma, calma, like slow it down. And I'm sitting here thinking, if I'm a Milan fan and we're in second and we're widely regarded as the only challengers to Inter winning the Scudetto, and we're on the front foot, we're trying to make a break for it, we're trying to take the game to Roma for once, and my coach is telling me slow it down. I don't know. That to me, that's just frustrating. Like as a Roma fan, fine, I'm okay with it. They may have stolen a second goal, but just hearing him in that moment where this is it. Do you want to keep pace with Inter or no? Where's this calma coming from? Like I don't know. What did you think, Rem? Did you catch that or?
I caught that. To quote Allegri, we just want to make Champions League, just top four. So I think
And
he
they
was
will.
playing it safe. Yeah, they will. They definitely will at this point.
Yeah,
I think he's being. I think in that particular situation, he's being realistic and pragmatic, right? Which is in the end what Allegri is. He's pragmatic. Uh, You're away from home, right? They were the away team, right?
yeah,
I'm not wrong on that.
yeah,
Yeah. So you're away from home. You have this point. You see that the home team, Roma, is on the front foot. They're all over the pitch, and your most consistent performers out, injured, Salamakers. Um, and your team just doesn't look like it's clicking today. I think the calma calma, or in the Tuscan accent, halma halma. He was he uh, he said that to be realistic in the moment. I don't disagree there. I think pushing everyone forward in that moment would have been risky and wouldn't have been the right move. Because I think Roma were the better team on the day, and I think Allegri was probably the first one to realize that. I
yeah.
want to
I
ask you,
think that.
Joe, what do you think of the referee?
Um, I think we've seen much worse performances from referees this year. I don't think he got anything blatantly wrong. I think the penalty awarded was a penalty, and I
Absolutely.
know it's harsh. It's harsh because we've all played before when you're back to the player, sticking a leg out high up to try and block across, your arms are naturally spread out wide, right? Like that's where the arms go. At the same time, you blocked a dangerous ball into the box. And so I think there's definitely a penalty there. The second claim maybe for a
The
penalty.
non-call. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I have a bit of a hard time with. It could have gone either way. I'm okay with him not giving it. I wish he had. But I can see, it was pretty close. Maybe I'm
Mike,
forcing
you have
myself to be,
to be fair.
impartial. Maybe yeah, but
I think
Mike,
I
what do
don't
you
think
think?
there
And
was
then
any.
I'll give my opinion after. So I want to hear your opinion.
Like I said before, penalty, 100% for me. Easy penalty. Those get given all the time in Serie A. Sometimes the ball's even going the opposite way. So many times that's given. The non-call, I think it was good. I don't think there was any big controversy here, to be honest. The biggest controversy was just Milan not showing up, to be honest. That's really about it. They just didn't show up. Simple as
Okay,
that.
I'm gonna
Roma showed up. Roma showed up, and they showed up hard, but they couldn't score, which is their issue all season. And that's basically where they stand. So a nice spareggione at the Olimpico. I think that was a fair assessment and a fair result at the end of the day, even though Milan, again, got lucky. Fair result.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just want to
Raymond,
give my opinion on the ref, and then we can move on to the next game. Because I've read so much from Milan fans and on Reddit, online, about how they hated this ref and how he wasn't fair. Honestly, there was one thing that he did wrong, but the rest of the game, I was extremely impressed. I found he had personality. I found he was no nonsense. He gave a yellow to Magnan for wasting time before the penalty shot, and I thought was amazing because, like, listen, I
yeah,
love
he
Magnan,
throws
but
the ball away
I
there. Yeah,
I don't want my team to be the heels in the game. You know what I mean? Like, they should be. It's Milan. They're a big team. They should have big team mentality. They shouldn't be wasting time, take a penalty, and trying to get into other people's heads to that extent. I think he
I
was
agree.
exaggerating. And I think the yellow card was, you rarely see it ever given, especially before a penalty shot. I think it showed that the referee was no nonsense. The one thing he got wrong was Robinho Vaz, who for some reason had it out for Modric. Came, pushed Modric. Modric turned around, went head to head, and Modric got a yellow. That's the one thing. Apart from that, this referee was very good. He's a young referee. I think it's extremely promising if this is the type of refereeing that's going to happen, because he let the play flow, he let it be physical, and he was no nonsense when he had to be.
yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I don't think he
Also,
botched it.
yeah, also the second penalty shot is not a penalty shot. Like the
No,
non-call, his hands are by his side. He can't.
yeah.
It hits his arm, it hits his hand that's a bit past his hip, let's say, but you can't give that. The first one is the penalty is a penalty.
I
I
think
hate
you.
how. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying I think you can give it, and I think you cannot give it. If I just look at the penalty for Inter at Como, I don't see a huge difference
Okay,
between
but we're talking about Inter here. It's
Well,
a
I'm just
Marotta
saying.
Marotta
League.
League. Marotta League.
But look, so these are two different human beings in two different games on two different days of the week. I get it. And to what point can we really demand consistency? I don't know. But if you're going to call that in the Inter game, where the players are about equally distanced from the ball, the arms are in about equal positions, I can see why some Roma fans, and I'm not necessarily one of them, are shouting to the heavens, right? What's good for Peter is good for Paul. Or maybe it
This is
isn't in
the
Italy, but
It's definitely not in
but
Italy.
this is what I was gonna say, make a point of before, and what I hate right now in the culture is it's just everyone whines online. That's why I try not to look too
Mm-hmm.
much online. It's just
yeah.
people whining about their team.
Mm-hmm.
Whine. I'm not saying that some calls we should whine for, and we should be on the refs. The refs have not been consistent at all the last few years. It's definitely well known. It's well documented, but I just hate the whining culture. Like it is what it is. It's a game. You're gonna have calls your way. You're gonna have, if you have an Excel tracker at the end of the season and say, okay, these are all the calls that went my way. These are all the calls that went the other way, I'm sure it'll balance out most of the time, unless you're Inter, right? According to you guys, man out the league, it's going to balance heavier on one side. But
It's
overall,
it's
I
also
agree. I agree.
complaining. Il pianto or the complaining is also part of the culture. I think like it
hundred
always has
percent.
been. I remember when I was young. I don't know if you guys. I used to watch a lot with my dad, and there used to be Processo Biscardi. I don't know if you guys remember that, but like it's Domenica Sportiva.
yeah, but the
Like
Domenica Sportiva I used to watch.
like there's entire segments dedicated to slowing down, replaying
Yeah,
different
la
Yeah,
moviola.
zooming in, looking at
Moviola,
the
like
goal. It's
look.
it's drama. It's drama. It wouldn't be Italy
Yeah.
without drama. That's what we have to understand
Oh,
also. But to me, I try to stay out of it because it just boils my
yeah.
blood seeing takes sometimes that are completely unnecessary, and it causes
Yeah.
fights between the fans at the end of the day.
Mhm.
But guys, let's move on. Let's move on to Torino, where Juventus won 3-0 over Napoli. Big statement game for Juventus. We'll start with Remo. What are your thoughts on the game?
So I came out pretty harsh last week on Juve. I think they responded very well throughout the week.
A
They
lot of
beat
you players do
Benfica.
listen to this podcast. Yeah. So
Apparently, they won 2-0 versus Benfica in the Champions, and 3-0 versus Napoli. Now let's all preface this by saying that Napoli is suffering from injuries. Napoli is clearly not the Napoli that they would be at the height of their power, their form, or the Napoli that they were last year at all. Um, but actually, fun stat: it's the first time they take 3 goals, Napoli, since 13 months ago versus Atalanta, Gasperini's
Interesting.
Atalanta. Um,
Mm.
but back to Juve, I think Spalletti probably used that Cagliari game as a point of motivation, even mentally, because 2 big wins in a row is not a coincidence. Thuram was incredible. Like
Thuram was
I remember
amazing.
when they signed him, I was like, that's a good signing. That's a good midfielder who's an engine, who's good at carrying the ball, driving play. He won the man of the match this game, deservedly. He was everywhere on the pitch. I'm not a big Locatelli fan, but that assist with the back heel was
oh man.
chef's kiss. Like like I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of back heels, obviously, but that assist was very nice. Good finish by David, who needed that goal. Um, there's not really many bright spots for Napoli. They didn't look good really at all. The midfield was overrun. Lobotka and McTominay. It's not like we're saying it was a scrappy midfield. It was their real
Yeah.
midfielders. The two
Yeah.
bright spots, I would say, I liked Vergara. He looks good. He's been growing game by game. And Buongiorno looked better. He went through a very rough patch. He blocked that shot on the line, and
That
you saw it. It
incredible
gave
block.
him, yeah, it
My
Yeah.
gave him
God.
like confidence because he looked like a different player right after. Unfortunately, on the flip side, Juan Jesus went back to who he really is
Oh my
and gave,
god.
The Inter one is loose.
yeah, he gave away that
Oof.
terrible pass, man. What a bad play. Like you're 1-0 down, and you give that pass like that. Like it's just you put your team in such a bad spot.
You know,
That's
I think Juve is definitely starting to have a style of play that they're adopting Spalletti's style of play, a lot of movement between the lines, a lot of players, interchanging roles and positions. And I always said when Spalletti was with Italy that Spalletti is much more of a club coach than a national team coach. I think that it's a
Mhm.
complex system that he plays, and you need to have training sessions day in and day out with the club, and you can see that he's starting to leave his mark on this team. Inter, of course, 3-0 is a heavy score line. Maybe it punishes. I said Inter, Napoli. It's a heavy score line. Probably they're, like you said, suffering from a lot of injuries. There's two tricky points here. A lot of people are saying, "Oh yeah, that fourth spot. That's Roma, Juve. Who's gonna get that fourth spot?" Guys, I think Roma, Juve might both make Champions League, and I think at the end of the year, is it Do you think there's a chance Napoli's left on the outside looking in?
Oof.
It's very
It would
I don't
possible.
be
know.
a
If
it
they're
would be a
playing like this,
disaster.
yeah, if they're playing like this, I think Napoli
Look,
will
they're
be
sitting
under.
even. They're sitting even on points with Roma now. Juve 1 point behind them. Even Como
Como not.
1 win
Yeah.
away, 3 points behind. The schedule doesn't get much easier looking forward. Some of these injuries, we don't know exactly when they'll be back.
We'll talk about
Uh,
Champions League later, but if Napoli bow out of the Champions League, I think that'll give them a little boost. So
that might
it'll
help.
I
they'll be
think
playing once a week, maybe Coppa Italia. They're still in it, right? So
Mhm. I think the only way they get out of this is we've seen Conte in the last 2 years or a year and a half. He's changed system 2, 3 times whenever they got in trouble. I think with Lukaku back, he's forced to change system again. His formation is going to probably change, and with no Lang, no Neres, I think he's going to go to a two-striker system. I don't know.
the injuries give a lack of depth. That's the problem, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
even their midfield is
They have no one.
decimated. They have no one. Let's give it. McTominay is fantastic, but it's more of an attacking midfielder, right? You have maybe Lobotka. Who else is left that's not injured? Even Conte, I forgot who they played, but he's like, it's the first time in my life I played someone this week that
Yeah.
I did not even see a game or him touch a ball before that. We took him straight from the Primavera, right? So that's where they're at. And this is probably at the worst time of the season. Not going to win
I don't
many
think.
points with a team like that.
Yeah, I don't think Conte's back next year either. I mean, there's a Conte and Mourinho are two historic rivals, two guys that obviously don't like each other. But I feel like Conte is starting to sort of morph into Mourinho in a way.
Mm.
He's just a little antipatico. He's got that 2 year itch. He never seems to hang around for long. He rubs on ownership. He rubs on the players. I don't know, man. Am I the only one seeing these
I mean,
parallels, or
he's
No,
always been
always
like
been like
that.
that.
Even as a player, he's been antipatico. It's not.
like,
He is who he is. But
yeah,
I
this is going
don't.
to be another in and out. 1 year success, 2nd year meltdown, 3rd year ciao. Right? That's
There's a good chance he leaves, but I don't know. I think if they bow out of Champions League, I think they probably make a run. They're also dealing with a lot of internal. I don't know if you guys read this, but there was an agent that he's an agent for a couple of their players. He came out and he said his players shouldn't be training because they don't get game time, and he was referring
Yeah.
in particular to Marianucci and another player. I forget which one. And those two players listened to their agent and didn't train, and so Conte froze them out of the squad or something along those lines. I could be wrong. But I know that he froze them out of the squad. So not only are you decimated by injuries, not only are you playing twice a week because of champions, because of the league, and then Coppa Italia, and how you're you're dealing with petulant agents that have to always stir the pot. Um,
yeah.
I don't think it's getting easier for him, but I think it's pretty wild. You said it last week, Joe, that De Laurentiis has been pretty quiet. I think it's pretty wild that he's still pretty quiet after all this.
We're due for an explosion where he sends everybody a fancool and drives off on a Vespa. I think we're due.
I think it's coming. It's starting to come based on the form, and Conte's already starting now. Not the excuses, but yeah, the injury thing is an excuse. It is an excuse, but it's tough. They had some tough games, a condensed schedule. I don't see it turning around anytime soon. To be honest,
He's
it's gonna be tough for them.
he's been pretty calm. I find even his post
Yeah,
match conference was
he has
pretty
been
like
calm. Yeah,
positive, which is weird too. You expect him to call out for the transfer market or whatever, but he said, I think, like, we're a team, we should all stick together and support each other, which coming from Conte is, I don't know. I think that's why there was an ice storm across the US. Um, but
Yeah.
it's too calm at Napoli, which is a little scary because there's so much going on. And I really think that if De Laurentiis doesn't do anything for the transfer market, then we see what really happens after. As soon as February hits, if they don't give some backup to Conte, we're gonna see someone blow up. Either it's Conte or De Laurentiis, or Conte makes a comment and De Laurentiis blows up. Something's bound to happen.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're probably
We
right.
didn't, we spoke a lot about Napoli, but and a little bit about Juventus. But I have to say again, I said it last week. I think Yildiz is a superstar. He
You're
is
just saying that
absolutely
because you have a Mafanta.
no. He is absolutely like sometimes you'll have players and you watch them. You're like, I wish we had a player like this on our team. Inter has an amazing squad, but a player like Yildiz he just brings that spark, that energy. He's fantastic. It's classic. It's classic football, and I miss that. Like the last few years, let's say even 10 years, have been a little bit more boring with like Pep's system and all this talk about tiki taka stuff, and we saw it. But there's some young players coming up, and he's one to watch, and it'd be a
Yeah,
shame
there's
if
not many fantasies. There's not many
no.
fantasistas left like that, right? Like those guys that can. I think Dybala is one of the last ones. Yildiz definitely looks like he's in that mold too, which is
It's making a
fun to watch.
comeback, though. It's making a
Yeah,
comeback.
Yeah,
This revival of these fantasistas like you're talking about, and people that it's just a joy to watch them week in and week out. I hate Juve, but I love watching Yildiz.
he's everything I wish Leao was. In all
There
honesty,
you go.
it's like he's incisive. He tries. He tracks back. I think at one point Cambiaso was up the field and he tracked all the way back and made a tackle. Like, not
He
only
seems
is
to
he a
have more
fantasista,
liberty.
yeah, but he wants to win. You see the fire, the desire in him. He wants to lead. He wants to win. He wants to be the game changer.
Yeah, he wants the
And
ball
I
all the time.
and that's what's gonna differentiate him from a lot of, let's say, Dybala was like that back in the day, man. Dybala, I remember with Juve, he could flip a switch and the game was changed. You knew he was getting the ball. He was
yeah,
dangerous. You look at someone like Leao, for example, and you watch him this week and you watch him the week before, and yeah, every once in a while he makes a difference. He gets that one play. Sometimes he might only need that one play, but the rest of the game he's a ghost. Yildiz is not
yeah.
like that.
It's
Yildiz is always on.
it's the dimensions too. Like I feel like Leao, who is a great player, it's not to say that he's one dimensional, but he's a little bit more predictable than a guy who like Yildiz, whose toolbox, if you want to call it that, is more complete. He can take the man on. He can use speed. He can dribble. He's got vision. He has an excellent shot, a quick release, driven shot. You know, he can
Mhm.
lay off a pass. He can hurt you in many different ways from many areas of the pitch, kind of like Nico Paz, right? We're talking about these fantasisti. Whereas a guy like Leao, you know, it's a bit more, I won't say predictable, but it's a smaller toolbox. Super gifted, incredible athlete, probably more athletic than Yield is, but maybe a bit less vision, a bit less creativity. You know what I mean?
Hard
Mhm.
work too is not there. Some players will rely on their talent, and I
Yeah,
feel like Leao is
Exactly.
one of those players. He just relies on his talent. The talent's there. He's always going to be great. But
yeah,
the drive, that wants to make you
The
take like
grinta.
the grinta, exactly. That Leao could have been the superstar. He should, like, when we talk about Leao, he had the tools at his disposal to be one of these top three names in world football, but it's just not there. He'd rather rap, right? And
yeah,
Okay, let's
there's
not.
two other.
He had some great seasons. It's
He
just
did.
he needs to get back to that.
Yeah, but even those seasons, like I said, they were still on and off. He had maybe like
Mhm.
he had fantastic 10 on 10 half seasons. That's how I look at Leao.
That's fair.
Like if I don't know if you find that fair, but to me, he
I
had
find that's fair.
yeah,
He's a very hot and cold player.
exactly. And like I
Yeah.
can look back, maybe it was 2 years ago. He had that half season was incredible. He couldn't stop scoring,
And
and two other yeah,
I
go ahead.
just compared Leao and Yildiz because they play the exact same position,
Yeah,
and the responsibility on the team, on their respective teams, is the exact same. This year, Leao's a bit more forward, but the responsibility for both of them should be the same.
yeah,
one last point about
definitely.
Juve. I know we went on a tangent about Leao, even though we spoke about Milan, but Juventus, I mentioned it last week. We talked about David revival, what that means for them. He's scoring again. and he's scoring the exact goal we spoke about last week. That type of goal. That's the goal he scored for Juve. So if he can get himself in those positions, again, with playmaking from the rest of the team, they're good. And Bremer coming back, I think, was a
Huge.
godsend for Juve. They've conceded less. They've been solid defensively. Let's see if they can continue this run. I think so. The way they're playing and the momentum that they have, I think then we can shoehorn them in for a top four. That would be my prediction, and we could talk a little bit about that also a little bit later. But let's move on to Inter. Inter, an absolute goal fest at the San Siro, which was a shock. So Pisa shocked the leaders, right, by taking an early 2-goal lead. I was stunned. I was like, what's going on? But Inter responded with 6 unanswered goals, and this all started with an early substitution by Kivu. The ball's on Kivu to do that, especially, and the reason why I'm saying this is I'm so used to having Conte, we're used to having Inzaghi as well. They had in their head these planned, like the tactical, I don't know, substitutions. The 60th minute would come, they take 3 guys, same 3 guys. It was amazing to see, and I have to give Kivu all the credit because that's the only spark that they needed. And next thing you know, they score 6 goals. It was fantastic. I think even they rotated heavily, so it was great, especially after especially after playing 2 games in 4 days. But nothing else to say. But the biggest winners, and you called it last week, Remo, of the weekend would be Inter, and they came out the biggest winners because they're 5 points ahead now of Milan, running away with the title. I think now the ball's in Inter's court. They have an easier schedule coming up the next few games compared to all the rest. They played all their big games. I think they have Milan left, if I'm not mistaken, which is going to be a very important game as well. But by the time that happens, Inter could be running away with it. It's theirs to lose now. I think they have the biggest percentage. If you look at it, I think Opta said like 68% now. It's theirs, the title. So, what do you guys think of the Inter machine?
I think they, like you said, Kivu. Well, the ball's on Kivu. He put, I think, Luis Enrique in a tough position because you're kind of destroying a player's confidence if you take him out at, I think it was like the 35th minute.
But they were also, the thing about Luis Enrique, he was starting to gain confidence. He was starting to play well,
Yes.
quote unquote. So
it's a tough break for him, but man, DiMarco is like, when DiMarco is on, he has like a left foot that just it's pinpointed. It's insane. I think he has like the highest dangerous chances created, big chances created. He has 19 in the league this season. The next person is Barella with 12. Like that's
He could have.
he's a
DiMarco
left
could have scored a hat
midfielder.
trick. Yeah.
It's insane, and I don't want to discount the fact that Pisa came out very strong. It seemed like they were going to make a big splash. It seemed like they were ready for the game, and Giardino's tactics looked completely right.
They caught us off guard.
Yes, they were also helped very greatly by Sommer.
Yeah.
But honestly, Inter's too strong. When they play like this, it's annoying because it seems like they're unbeatable. Even Esposito, like, wow, this kid looks good. That cut across for the header, it looked he looked good against Liverpool. Not against Liverpool, sorry, against Arsenal, yeah. And he put Mosquera in a very tough spot as soon as he came on. But this game, like, he instant impact. What a player!
The
What
power
a
of his header is
amazing.
amazing.
He looks like a young Luca Toni almost. Like, it's bad to say because we always put these players on a pedestal and compare them to legends, but he really looks like that, and he looks like he's the real deal. But Inter just looks unstoppable. It's very annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, Pisa got off to a hot start with definitely some help Both goals were the first one. I'm not sure if it was. It's probably more Sommer's fault, but I think it was
I think
Sucic
it's more
also,
Sommer.
or Zielinski, I think, who
Zielinski, it was
like,
Zielinski, yeah.
yeah, who didn't track back or who didn't follow, and then the second one was you got to cover that at the near post. I mean, Pisa, credit to them, they played bravely, but I mean, and XG is not a perfect stat. Sometimes people put a little bit too much into that. But I mean, it's 0.34 XG, guys. Like, there should not be a goal here. You know what I mean?
No, there
Like,
shouldn't have
you
been a
create
goal.
0.
It's, yeah.
So, I mean, the Inter were unlucky to go down. I think the team bailed Sommer out. There was images of him at the end of the game laughing and smiling and dancing with his teammates. And I think Supper was definitely on Jan Sommer that night. His teammates really bailed him out. Going back to DiMarco, this guy, he could have had a hat trick, guys. Like, never mind the goal and the assist. I think he hit a post. I think he had a shot blocked that was basically like an open net. I mean, he went in like a man possessed, So credit to them. Just we could talk about it for hours, and yet there's really not much to say. These guys are
No, there
just
isn't,
a
especially in a win
machine.
like this.
Yeah,
They look like a machine.
Yeah, when we look like this, like Remo said, we look like we could take on anybody, but then we get humiliated by Arsenal, even though they're a good team, and we'll talk about
I
it
wouldn't say
later.
humiliated, but
Well,
that's
yeah, not humiliated, but again, we'll talk about Champions League later, and I can go on a whole tangent about that. But you mentioned that we were unlucky. I don't think it was unlucky. I don't want to use that word because the last 2 years we've seen Inter have these mental lapses and what costs them games over the end of Inzaghi's term. It transferred over to Kivo as well in these big games. You see that we have them. I'm just happy that they were able to turn it on and say, guys, let's score some goals, let's gain some confidence. So it ended up being an even bigger thing for that confidence, right? And on top of that, it's confidence in the players that are coming off the bench because, again, we heavily rotated. You had a lot of bench players make either assists, goals, whatnot, Mickey coming back. And Zielinski has been absolutely fantastic. He looks like old Zielinski, and we talked about that last week. But again, we're not going to spend too much time on it. Yeah, revelation.
Revelation of Inter season. He's been a real key player.
Yeah. And we'll talk about Inter a lot for sure on the podcast, so we won't go into too much. Bologna, their slump continues, unfortunately. Red card, crazy goals from Genoa. I don't know if you guys saw some of the
all three
goals
all
from
three
that
were
game.
insane.
Oh my goodness. So Vincenzo Italiano, something's happening. They only have one win in their last Serie A matches, so they're struggling to even balance the European commitments with their domestic form. Sorry about that. What do you guys think, Remo? What are your thoughts on Bologna?
So I feel like Bologna seemed like they were in complete control of the game. So I think it's a bit unfair to say that they didn't look good or anything. The thing that made the difference was after the red card, Italiano played scared. He, instead of, your team technically on paper is better.
Yeah.
You're the stronger team. Your bench is deeper. You got Rostrodini on the bench. Like, play for the result. Don't play to just close down and stay back. There was a big mistake by Skorupski. They got, listen, I don't think that's a red card. I think it's a yellow. It's
even
that.
the
Yeah,
announcer also, he pre-called a yellow card coming here, and then he pulled out the red, and I think everyone was a little surprised. I mean,
I think the referee is suspended for a bit, if that's what I read correctly today. But it nonetheless, on the flip side, Daniele De Rossi, again, a young coach, balls of steel.
my guy.
His changes were incredible. He put on Malinowski, 2 seconds later scores. Put on, who is it, Ekator?
Ekator, or Ekuban, I don't know. They're both.
Well,
Ekator, yeah.
The names confuse. Their two names confuse me. Anyways, it comes on, scores that insane scissor kick with a player on his back right away.
Yeah.
And then Messias, classic Messias. The only goal he could score, the only goal he knows how to score. He'll score
Yeah.
one a season, and that's it. But no, and you saw what it meant to De Rossi too. That's a huge win for Genoa. Huge, because they put a nice bit of distance between themselves and the relegation, and they look good. They look. I've said it before. Um, Genoa looks like a very good, solid team, and De Rossi is doing a very good job with them. He's instilling confidence in everyone. They did this without Ostigard and Nets. I think, and Nets in defense. Sorry, I think that's probably their weakest part is their defense. Marcandali looks good. Otoa looks so. He's the one that scored an own goal at the beginning of this game. Um, and then you have Vasquez, who's a sure thing. They got Bilo in nets. He looks okay. We'll see. I think Leali did a very good job. That wasn't expected of him. Um, I, I have a soft spot for Genoa because it's an older team. That stadium is incredible. They have incredible
Genoa
fans.
Yeah, we can get
Genoa is
Sam
actually
back
the
too.
oldest the oldest club in Italy,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
Genoa. Yeah. So,
yeah.
and
They
I
they
think,
just have an incredible like atmosphere there.
yeah, and as a manager, I mean, De Rossi is probably not the best tactician that you'll find, but I
You can get someone running.
yeah, I mean, you listen to this guy talk, and
Yeah.
it's not surprising that these guys are willing to run through walls for him. You know what I mean? Like, how do you have a manager like that and not get pumped up and not show up every game and give your 100%? If nothing else, for fear that he's gonna, give you the pizza after the game if you don't. You know what I mean? Like, so I
Yeah, but
think
I think
De Rossi's doing great things.
I think he also has this way of nurturing players that maybe he took from his dad. His dad's a youth coach for Roma and has been for a very
Yeah,
long time. All these players came through his system, and I think it's a huge benefit when you have that as, let's say, your mentor. And you see it,
yeah.
Colombo, that confidence that Colombo has. He's playing players like Marcandali who look good week in, week out, getting better and
Two
better.
assists, Marcandali. We
Yeah,
spoke
yeah,
about. It's funny because we spoke about like a lack of young Italian center back, and this weekend I was just writing them all down in like my notes app. Marcandali is another one. I think I looked. He's under 25. I think he's 22 or 23. Uh, he looked so calm, poised on the ball,
mhm.
and of course they were a man up when when he
Yeah.
dished these assists. But he showed character. He was calm on the ball, decisive passes. Yeah, I think you know I think Bologna. We said it last episode. Right? We might have been talking off air, where a lot of teams took steps in the right direction over the summer. A lot of teams got better, and I don't think that Bologna followed suit. I think that's what they're paying for now. I mean, Bologna was one of the, if I'm not mistaken, one of the only top 10 teams in Serie A to run a net positive in the transfer market. Right? They put 30 million euros in their pocket. They looking back now, maybe they should have invested that money. And some of what they did invest, that center back pairing that played this weekend.
Who played
I think it was
Vitek?
Hegem and Vitek.
Hegem, yeah.
Mhm.
And these are two purchases. These are two guys that have, they're playing together for the first time this year. 18 million on two center backs, and that partnership doesn't seem like it's clicking the way it should. They spent
See,
a
this is
good
the
chunk
thing.
of money on Roll, and he's up and down, right? So I don't think they spent enough, and I don't think that they spent well, and I think that's what they're paying the price for. And again, talking about coaches we see leaving, I think Italiano's gone next year.
I think so as
So
well. I think
you
one of the
know,
teams, one of the bigger teams, picks him up. Whoever
Atalanta,
gets rid of.
Italiano's going to be at Napoli. That's my
I see
call.
Conte
That's
that.
my
leaves.
prediction.
I
Yeah,
see that.
I yeah, I think Conte goes, and I think Italiano makes the jump. And um, yeah, I mean, De Laurentiis has winked his eye at Italiano before. Um,
He's a great
so
coach, though. Great attack minding coach. Great Italian
yeah,
He
coach.
he changes
definitely.
formation way too much.
He keeps
Well,
you
that's
guessing.
yeah,
He
the
keeps you
Tinker Man.
guessing.
Yeah,
But even
there's a
that,
few
like
guys.
Orsolini was on the bench today. I don't know why. Like he took him out over the during the week in the European game, assuming that he would start. I'm assuming.
Maybe he's nursing an injury, or
Yeah, he might
I
be
don't know.
nursing something.
It's strange.
he's having a slump. Like the Bologna, they're in a funk right now. You talked a
Yeah,
lot about maybe on being unlucky, but sometimes when you're in a funk, you're in a funk. They had a
and they
great
played
start at the
scared.
beginning of the half. Yeah, they did play scared, and that's what happens. And
Mhm.
we can move on to the next funk, which is Fiorentina, even bigger funk. We
Real
talked a
funky.
little. A real funky team right now. They lost after winning a game. Actually, they put together four results. They strung four results together. Two wins, two draws. We're like, okay, are they coming back? But it was the same Fiorentina we saw a month ago, basically. So they basically took a step backwards. They had a lot of possession, 40 crosses. They tried to do what they could, but again, Palestra on the counterattack was
My
lights
boy.
out. He was lightning. Another bright Italian that we can look forward to watching. Joe, what are your thoughts on Fiorentina right now?
I think they created some chances. They were a little bit unlucky. Kiliksoy's goal looked like it took a huge deviation. They created, right? I mean, they had something
They
like
played better. They did.
yeah, they had
They
like
played well.
70% possession. They created. It says here 3 big chances. That seems about right. I mean, they didn't play poorly. I just think that Cagliari was probably more clinical. One big chance, 2 goals. So
They seemed
I think it's
really susceptible to counterattacks. Like I
yeah,
watched this game and there was no one back. Like Palestra it was 3-on-1 at the point, running
Hmm.
back. There was no defenders there. I don't know if they were just
yeah,
trying too hard to get that goal. They were pushing forward, or maybe I don't know. Their tactics were to be a little bit higher up the pitch, try to get
yeah.
that
I
goal. You
mean,
could see possession, but they were really, really, really bad defending counterattacks.
I
Yeah,
think
that
a
team
chunk
looks.
of this goes on Vanoli. Yeah, a chunk of this goes on Vanoli. Vanoli. I mean, if you look at the way they were set up, Fagioli in front of the defense. I mean, this is a guy who likes to get forward. I would have tried to insulate. I mean, your center backs are Pongracic and Comuzzo. Like, if you're gonna play a defensive mid, don't make it Nicolo Fagioli, who's gonna get forward. There's no balance in that midfield three either, right? Madragora, fine, a player I like a lot. A Mezzala, right? He'll get up, he'll get down, but he's not gonna insulate a poor defense. Fagioli's gonna
Yeah.
get forward, Endor is gonna
Fajoli
get
was in the
forward.
box. You were right. Fajoli was in the box half the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and you look at the bench, and I'm not a coach. You look at the bench. There's got to be somebody, or maybe there isn't. Maybe that's the problem. But you've got to be able to put somebody there to help that defense. And you know what? I'm looking at the bench, and I'm wrong. I mean, there's nobody there. Like,
No, there's not.
listen,
There's
They got rid
Nicolo
of they
the
got rid of
Siqueira,
bench,
but
they got rid of
the bench for
Som.
Fiorentina, they're like one of the only teams I've seen bring 2 goalies to the game regularly, backup goalies. Then it's Koaidu, Cospo, Luca Ranieri, who has his own issues, Luis Balbo, Nicolusi Caviglia, Fazzini, Braschi. There's a lack of a good destroyer in
But
midfield.
where did
Mhm.
Som go? They just got
He
rid
went
of
to
Bologna.
Som. He
Bologna.
went
Bologna.
to
Yeah,
Bologna. Like to
Yeah.
me,
yeah,
that was that player, right?
He's
Strong.
not really a destroyer either, though. He's strong.
yeah.
He's
He's more
more
of
of
a
a. He's a guy like Loftus Cheek. You don't know where he plays.
yeah.
You don't
He's
know where he
he's
plays.
He's
Plays
just
somewhere in
strong
the
on
middle
the
of the
ball
park.
and he's good. Yeah, exactly. He just runs up and down. But
Like you're naming all those names, and like you're getting rid of a player like Som. I think you'd rather have him there. Like you
yeah,
said, we're
but
not coaches, but
the idea was that they probably got Brescianini to play that Som position, that Endure position. I
yeah,
think they're going forward with Mandragora and Fagioli in midfield, but the team was set up to play with 3 center backs, and they're switching to 4. But your fullbacks now are Dodo and Gosens, who are 2 guys that are not
yeah,
fullbacks; they're midfielders,
yeah,
and so your
and that,
balance is completely off. And then when you have a slow defender like Pongracic in the back, who I don't even know how he's a Serie A player. The guy looks horrible. He can't move. He's not agile whatsoever. Komutso, okay, he's young. Give him a chance. He's suffering a bit. Not
He's
playing
out of
great.
position all the time. Like
I
you
know.
watch that
He
game and
seems
you're like,
he
where's
seems like he
Kuzo?
has no.
Like
He seems like he has no tactical um, awareness. He
Awareness.
seems
awareness.
just
Yeah.
he's just everywhere, which is bad. But you need to put him next to someone who is tactically aware. And Pongracic is not that either. And neither is Luca Ranieri, who I think in a 3-man defense does very well.
Yeah, he's better than
But
3-man D. That's why he hasn't been
yeah,
starting, right?
no,
Since they shipped him
exactly.
before.
But I don't know. They need their defense right now is very weak. They got rid of Pablo Mari. They didn't replace him. Pablo Mari also not up to the level that they need. And yeah, they're playing with 2 wing backs, 2 center backs, 3 center mids, no center defensive mid. It's weird. They're completely unbalanced, and you saw that
You
with
see it.
Palestra's goal. It's it is what it is for Fiorentina. I don't think this loss is going to hit them as hard as we think it might. I think they're going to bounce back. I still think they're not going to be relegated. Cremonese has been dropping nonstop.
Jeez.
Yeah, reality's hitting them a bit. But then again, Davide Nicola, we never know. But I think the real story here is Cagliari, 2 wins back to back, Juventus and Fiorentina.
Some scalps, claiming some scalps. Well, I mean, is Fiorentina
Yeah,
scalp? I don't know.
it's
But
still a big win. It's still for
yeah,
a team like Cagliari, that's a relegation battle win,
True.
yeah.
and they look good. Well, they look good. They look efficient. Uh, I'm happy for someone like Pisacane because he's a young coach. They got rid of Davide Nicola a bit unfairly, and they brought this guy in probably as a low budget option, and he did very well with their youth system, and he's getting them to win. At first, people were a bit iffy. They were talking about him getting fired before Christmas and this and that, but 2 wins back to back like this against high profile teams, it's very good. It's very good for Cagliari. Palestra is. I could say it over and over again. You guys know he's my Fanta find of the year. He looks great, and he's if he starts scoring too, it's going to be very good.
We can move on to maybe another team that got 6 past them and could be a relegation battle team as well. You could see them lower in the standings, and that's Torino. Como 6-0. I think that performance of the weekend. They just completely dismantled Torino. Dubicas, was fantastic. Nico Paz as always. Kakere also masterclass that put them. This win was not only a statement win, but it puts them firmly in the hunt for a European spot. And I think that's where I want to talk about, and why I wanted to talk about Como. Maybe not so much on the game, but they're 2 points off of Juventus, 3 points off of Napoli and Roma. A lot of people's, like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of people's dark horses this year, Como to make a European spot. What do you guys think, Remo? What do you think of Como?
I said it from the beginning of the year that they would make Europe in that last spot. I think they do. I think
Do you
they
think they make
did.
champions, or do you think they make
No,
they
no, no,
finish
no.
sixth?
I think Conference League is probably. I don't know. It's because Atalanta looks very good too, and I guess next week's game is going to tell us a lot about that. But Atalanta looks good, and then you have one between Napoli, Roma, and Juve, who's going to end up fifth.
Let's maybe touch upon that game. Let's go straight into match day preview, Como Atalanta. I think that's where the talking point is about Como, anyways, and we continue to talk about Como during it. But let's kind of
Yeah, that's gonna be a great
segue
game.
into that segue of that game.
Yeah, I just want to make 2 points for this Como 6-0 win, because there's not much else to talk about, right? Because they dominated. Torino looks bad. Blah blah.
Yeah.
Como won 6-0. Paz got 0 goals, 0 assists, and Duvicas was supposed to be Morata's substitute at the beginning of the season. If this is their depth, then they're set up very well.
They are no Italians though.
Yeah, I know.
That's
It's
the
it's a shame.
controversy around them, right?
It's a shame, and I really don't believe Fabregas when he says, "Oh, I would love an Italian if there were any good ones." Get out of here! Like, come on. This season showed that
Honestly,
there's so many good Italians coming, so many young good Italians playing.
I'm I don't know. I enjoy watching Como. I think that I just don't buy the narrative that Como is a surprise or that they're a small team punching above their weight or that they're
Richest team in
giant
Italy.
killers or Como over the past 5 years has the third largest transfer deficit in Serie A. The only teams who have spent more money out of pocket than Como are Milan and Inter. No, sorry, Milan and Juve. So this is, I mean, it's not the fairy tale story that people think it is.
No,
And we're talking about them making Europe. I think that they need to. This is not PSG. This is not the Premier League where FFP is optional. If they don't start playing in Europe, the FFP beast is going to turn its head.
Can we agree? Can we agree though that they spent their money wisely and they spent their money young with a good core group rather than they could have just came in and maybe like we look at some players that didn't work out from last year, but they looked like they put together a team. That's what's important, right? Yes, they spent a lot of money, but you can spend a lot of money and be really horrible. There's so many examples in the Premier League as well. You're just spending to spend. But I think they put their money in the right place and they put their money on young talent that they can bank on and build a core team around as well.
yeah, 100%. I think when they plan out their players that they purchase very well. They scout very well. They have a partnership, I think, with Ajax, and it's pretty wild to think that they nurtured Paz into this massive star. You know he's leaving at the end of the season.
Yeah.
They already have his replacement in Baturina.
Yeah.
They signed him this season. They slowly edged him in, but he's on a crazy run of form right now, and in the end, he will be Paz's replacement in that center attacking midfield position.
Yeah, it's well planned out, and I think that a lot of credit for that goes to Fabregas. I think he is a great manager above and beyond, and a lot's made of his tactics and their style of play. But I think above and beyond that, I mean, he's like you guys say, he's building a team that has depth in the key positions. I mean, look, these are just purchases from this year, right? Rodriguez, Kuhn, Baturina, Adai, Perone, Valle. Like Diego Carlos is another one who looks very good at the back. So they are spending money. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, saying that they're not this Cinderella team that people think they are. But I think as the season goes on, if the clubs around them keep doing what they should do, and that's getting results, I'm interested to see how a very young team managed by a coach who's had little adversity in his career handles that pressure. I'm not saying they're going to fall apart, but that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing. Right now, it's all fun. We go out, we put up 6 goals against garbage teams. Sure, right? Because let's call it what it is. Torino is a tire fire, right?
Yeah.
Torino's a good shot to get relegated. The only
That's what I
Yeah.
said
reason
before.
we're not speaking as much as we are about Torino and possibility of relegation is because Fiorentina is competing with them for the most underperforming team. If not, Torino would be a storyline. You know what I mean? I just think as the season wears on, if they're not in and around those places where they are now, the pressure is going to start to pile on. We know that, unfortunately, Paz, they won't be able to get the plus Valenza that they should off of him because, if I'm not mistaken, it's a predetermined buyback amount for
Mhm.
Real, right?
Real.
I
I think
think it's
it's
9 million or something.
yeah, which is peanuts. The guy's worth 70 mil. You know what I mean? So if they don't start getting that European money, this could fall apart as quickly as it came together. And
Do
I
they
hope
win?
not, because
Do they win versus Atalanta though? Do they beat Atalanta
Uh,
on Sunday? Because
that's
that's a big
tricky.
game. That's a big game for European money specifically, right? Because that puts a big distance between them and Atalanta. Atalanta are in a really, really good form. Haven't lost in 5. Como only lost 1. Two exciting teams to watch when they're playing. Atalanta do have a Champions League game, which is an important one for them. Also, I think they all but booked their place, but it could be an important one for them. So this Como will take that.
I'm trying to see where this game is, and I know advantage to Como for the because of the Champions League
I think Como's at
midweek
home.
fixture, and then the game is at the Senigalia. Yeah, so Como's at home. Atalanta coming off a Champions League match. I think Como probably edges it, something along the lines of like a 3-2. I would say exact score. If there's any betting men out there or women, I think Como edge it at home.
Definitely a game to watch though. Over the weekend, another game to watch: Napoli Fiorentina. That's on Saturday. The 12 p.m. game here in the East. That's going to be a big game because Napoli need to bounce back, and so does Fiorentina. They just need to bounce. So that's going to be a big game for both teams. It could be a nail in the coffin for Fiorentina that have to show up, have to play. They both have to actually show up and play. So Napoli's at home though, so it's going to be a tough game for Fiorentina. I think Napoli does take this one, but again, another team in the Champions League. Napoli have the biggest match out of all Italian teams, I think, in the Champions League. So maybe that factors in. Can't really rotate. We talked a lot about their depth. We talked a lot about the health of the Napoli team right now. I'm not sure. That could be a toss up. That could be one of those games where it could be a toss up and go either way. Maybe even a draw. What do you think, Remo?
This game I'm very unsure about because Fiorentina is going to come out firing, right? They need that win, but Napoli at the Maradona, it's a hard game to win for Fiorentina. Um,
Yeah,
it seems like it has a 1-1 tie written all over it. In all honesty,
I think there's
but
going to
it
be a
all
lot of
depends.
goals.
You think? I don't
I
know.
I think so.
I if because now you have Belkema is going to play with Buongiorno, let's say, and I'm assuming Juan Jesus.
But if Fiorentina plays like they did last weekend, so up the pitch, I know different opponents, but maybe they'll sit a bit more back. But they don't seem like a team that could do that based on their players. I think they're going to concede a lot on the counter, and Napoli's pretty good on the counter. They can counter very well. They have great counter. They have great
Yeah,
counter players. So
I think it's the first game we'll see. I think Lukaku might start this game because if
I think so.
he's back, he came in as a sub. I'm assuming Hoyland starts in the Champions. Lukaku comes in as a sub in the Champions and starts this game. Um, so it all depends how we find Lukaku because him too, he's hot and cold when you never know what kind of Lukaku you get in the season. And after a long injury like that, it's tough to know. It's a game you can't make a pronostico for it because both teams are in tricky positions. Both teams look very subpar for different reasons, obviously. And Napoli has the disadvantage that they're going to be exhausted. Is there Conference League this week as well?
Yeah, Conference League, no.
So
no, but
Fiorentina doesn't play.
Fiorenina's playing in the Coppa Italia tomorrow, actually against Como. It's early. It's Tuesday, but
Yeah,
I think that
yeah,
Fiorentina at home is just what the doctor ordered for Napoli. Um,
yeah.
I
But a
think,
weekend tired Napoli for Fiorentina, you never know. It's this has a
yeah, that
surprise written all over it. In all honesty,
could be. You could be right. I mean, I think if Napoli are who they say they are, or if Napoli are who Napoli fans tell me they are, they need to win this game. Right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like,
yeah, for sure.
injured
But
or not, you're facing a relegation level team this year. Call it what it is. At home, coming off some a really tough result. If you can't enjoy some home cooking and go out and beat Fiorentina, geez,
Then we have
it's
a
not
Tuesday. I was going to say we have a Tuesday game, which
Tuesday.
is Tuesday Serie A game. So we have
Yeah.
Friday to Tuesday. We have Bologna Milan ending off the week on Tuesday. That's going to be fun for Fantacalcio. We're going to have to wait. Set up like Joe said last week. You set up a lineup on Friday for teams to play on Tuesday. But
Yeah.
big game for
On the bright
Milan.
side,
Yeah.
on the bright side, it's the only time I'll see Milan play on a Tuesday this year.
Didn't. They're playing Bologna. So Bologna again. We talked about their poor form. Joe, what do you think? Bigger game for Milan or Bologna?
I think it's on the whole probably a bigger game for Milan. I think that, like Remo said, they came out and suffered for 60, 70 minutes against Roma. I think they're doing nothing all week, and Allegri has time to sit down and prepare for a team that shouldn't be too threatening to them. If I'm not mistaken, it's at the Dallada, which helps Bologna a little. It's a tough one.
Inter
It's the
playing
margin of
Cremonese,
victories
right?
for Milan that are so small. The margin of victory for Milan, even when they do win, is so small that it's almost impossible to predict them to win comfortably ever. Because even when they do win, it's 1-0. You know what I mean? I
This
think
is a nice
Skorupski's
1-0 all over it.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, look, Skorupski in and out. He did the old Abe Lincoln gif, right? He walked in, put his hat down, picked it back up, and walked back out of the bar. Ravalia didn't look good on that Malinovsky free kick. I know, we give the advantage to the forwards, and we like seeing those sort of goals scored. But I think on the whole, he probably should have stopped that. It was from far out enough that he should have been able to stop that. I think Milan comes out and puts on a classic Milan display and takes home a 1-0, or maybe even they spoil Remo and take home a 2-0 win.
I would like that very much.
Yeah.
So that's the match day 23. We're going to move over to the Champions League. We're going to see what happens there. A few points we wanted to talk about. Maybe we won't touch Mercato. We've been going pretty long, so it's great. I love the conversation, so it's a great thing. We can touch about maybe the end of the Mercato next week since it ends. But anyways, not that big of a transfer window in the Serie A here. Maybe Lazio we wanted to talk about, but we'll talk a little bit more about them next week. Champions League, massive Champions League games coming up for Italian teams. We're not playing too well. Quite notably, like we just spoke about, Napoli must win. Problem is they're playing Chelsea. Good thing I think they're playing at home, if I'm not mistaken. But that's going to be really tough game for Napoli. What do you do if you're Napoli, right? Like at this point, your season in Serie A is looking that it's stumbling a little bit. Do you go all out here? Do you try to, knowing you have an important game on the weekend as well, although it be Fiorentina, but you never know which Fiorentina team could show up. You go all out in the Champions League, beat Chelsea, and try to sneak in there. Joe, what do you think?
I think if you're going to be pragmatic about it, I think the best thing, and Napoli fans might not want to hear it, would be for them to take a 1-0 loss that you can be
Proud of?
semi-proud of and focus on the league. Because looking at their lineup, looking at the list of injured players, if it was top 8 qualification on the line, fine, do lo sforzo and try and qualify for the next round. Even if they do win and everything does go their way, because they're not in the top 24 right now, they're just outside. Oh, well, I mean, there's a bunch of teams tied there at 8. PSV, Athletic, Olympiacos, Napoli, and Copenhagen. Even if you do exert yourself when you're in a tough spot and get the win at home against Chelsea, which will be, cause for celebration for sure. You're just adding 2 games to a schedule where, I mean, these guys are walking zombies. Realistically, do they make it out of the playoff? I don't think so.
I think so.
So
It depends who you draw, but sometimes you can get lucky. But I don't think so either.
I don't think
The la-
Conte is in a rush to add games to his schedule right now. I mean, it's Champions League. You got to play. You got to give your best. So they say. But I mean, I don't know. Look, I was happy when Roma went out of the Coppa Italia. Right? Like, no, I'm not comparing the Coppa Italia to Champions League before people blow me up on X. But at a certain point, looking at the lineup, you know, save yourself the extra 2 games and try and qualify for Champions League next year. You'll make more money qualifying for Champions League next year than you will make in the playoff game or games that you'll play. Because I don't think they'd go through to the next round. So
fair assessment. Then you have Inter, Atalanta, Juve, all right next to each other. We had Inter, Atalanta last week. In that top 8, looking less likely that they will make it because they'll probably need help from other teams. The way this Champions League works, though, anything could happen, and we never know. But the first thing you got to do is win your game. Inter do have a tough game. Going to away to Dortmund is always a tough game, but they can throw the kitchen sink at it. I think they have to. I think more so we can end the narrative of Kivu can't win a big game. I think that's what they have to do it for, and I think that's the drive that should um, Kivu should instill on his players is that we have to go win this big game. No matter where we finish in the table, we show that we can beat some big teams and get that extra boost at the end. Arsenal was a tough opponent. They're one of the best teams in the world right now, technically in the Premier League, and in the way they played very boring football, I have to say. But we talked about it. It gets the job done. Juve, same thing. Have to go out and get a win or a draw. I think it's enough. But Juve may be less likely than Inter to have to prove a point. And Atalanta, I think, would be happy with any result and just getting into the next round. The problem for all 3 teams, it adds 2 extra games. I think Inter can handle it, but teams like Atalanta and Juventus, being closer in the table, it's going to be definitely a tougher on them if you're adding more games in the schedule, which
I,
is
I
definitely going
think
to happen.
I think Atalanta and Juventus probably are the best shout right now. Atalanta away to Union Saint-Gilloise. They looked good last week. Atalanta,
did.
they got very unlucky. That first half should have ended 3-0. And then they got caught up in that second half.
I think Palladino cost them that game. And I don't know if we'll get to it or not. We've been running really long, but Palladino just wasn't the scratch.
Maybe,
Horrible.
maybe it's
He
a
reacted
lesson,
so
right?
late, and then he did the wrong thing.
It's
You
his
can do
first
one
games.
or the other, right? React late or react wrong. But you react late and wrong, you're cooked.
Yeah, that's fair, but it's his first time coaching in the Champions League, and he's doing a pretty good job, I think.
Yeah,
3
yeah. I
wins
mean,
on the
look,
trot, first loss
yeah.
in 5 games.
The way
I
the year
think,
started with Juric there, I'll take
yeah,
Palladino over Juric any day.
but Newcastle's playing PSG. They're both at 13 points. Atalanta's at 13 points playing Union Saint-Gilloise. They just need one person to come out on top of that game, and hopefully they make it up. They need to have a goal fest, which they're very much capable of doing. Just a fun stat, because I think we overlook Atalanta quite a bit this season after that rough start. But it's very fun to point out some players that go under the radar, and this one is a personal one for me because my idol Paolo Maldini got trashed for signing Charles de Ketelaere, but he has in 3 seasons with Atalanta 32 goals, 29 assists, so that's 61 goal contributions in 127 games.
Yeah,
That's pretty impressive, and he showed it last
he
week in
looked
Champions
great
League. He
too.
showed it this week. Yeah, he's on a good run of form. I think he's their key man going into the Champions week and going into that game against Como.
I think. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was gonna say I think he didn't have the best start of the season. He's been playing well, but again, life under Juric. I don't think Atalanta was flying either, so that's a testament to that. But I think most of what those stats come from are last year. Last year they were flying high. Again, Lookman's back in.
Is that
He
a
can
good
do
thing?
some damage. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. We have yet to see, and I think they're fun. They're going to be a fun team to continue to watch in the Champions League and in Serie, especially the second half of both. It's going to be a fun match day. This is what we spoke about last week. Is the Champions League? Maybe at the beginning it's not as sexy. You don't know. Everyone's playing everybody. You know what's going to happen. But these last two match days is look. You have how many teams tied at 13 points? Anything could happen. A little bit of luck, and Inter, Atalanta, or Juve could make it in. I would never thought Juve out of all this could make it into the top 8. I don't think it's going to happen for any of these three teams. But you never know. Napoli have to show up versus Chelsea as well. If Napoli could do a solid, we'll see. Joe, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say I was gonna touch on like what you said. I mean, Napoli definitely could help the other Italian teams by slowing Chelsea down a little bit. But this is the time of year where teams need to make business decisions. You know what I mean? It's so hard to prioritize one competition over the other, but sometimes you need to. And look, Inzaghi took a lot of flack last year for going after all three, and a lot of Inter fans, maybe you are one of them, maybe one of you aren't, Mike, but a lot of Inter fans put, the ultimate loss of the Scudetto to Napoli at the feet of Inzaghi, chasing after the Champions League and the Coppa Italia and refusing to hitch his wagon to one horse. So it's going to be
And
interesting
coming
to
out and
see.
saying it.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. And
Yeah.
for so uncharacteristic. I mean, we're not talking about Mourinho or Conte or Inzaghi is like the most soft-spoken. I feel like I don't know. That was a little bit of bravado I wasn't expecting from him, but he went out and put a target on their back. I don't think any of the Italian teams qualify for the top 8. I mean, even just on goal differential, Atalanta's at +1. So even if they do get a bit of help, they can maybe tie with a Barca or a Man City. But then these guys are. Man City's at +4, Barca's at +5. They really need to, Atalanta will need to come out and score 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
they could benefit.
You never
tough.
know.
Never know.
Yeah.
Never know what could happen. It's the beauty of
Maybe.
football. That's why we love the sport. And most of the time, we're just disappointed, like Inter in the Champions League. At the end of it, right? We have the best, I think, tie in football I've watched in a really long time versus Barcelona. It was exciting. Just that alone was, I think, worth it for me. But shambolic final. We won't talk about last season. Let's move on to this season.
No.
Hopefully
Let's talk about that final last season.
If you want to talk about that fight, I had more confidence going into the final versus Man City. I say it all the time, like that. I really thought we would have, and I think we could have, and we should have won versus Man City. I had so much confidence going into that game. I was more excited for that final because I really thought in my head that we were going to win the Champions League. When last year I did not think that at all when going into the final, and they proved me right. 4-0, spanking, a big spanking. But anyways, let's move on.
That's tough.
It's tough. I think we talked a lot, and I think we had some really good conversations. And if you did sit through this and listen to us talk, we appreciate you and thank you for listening to us once again. So we'll be here next week. Thank you guys. Joe, Remo, any last words?
Enjoy the weekend of soccer, guys, and the Champions League midweek. And we'll be here next week to break it down for you guys again.
Forza Milan, Forza Serie A.